don't you think it's funny that like something like that can get the green light, and something like I said about my dirty mud getting treated by bacteria that they found, I think it was in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's totally fine, no one bats an eyelid. As soon as you give an organism a gene from somewhere else, people fucking lose their mind. Why, hello there, people of the internet. It's me, Miles, and welcome to another, well, pretty awesome episode of League of Nerds, if I say so myself. I would like to say, as always, I'm joined by James, but James, again, isn't here as we're recording this episode. He's away in America somewhere. But we actually have Buck with us. Hello, Buck.
Yo! Hello, Miles.
How are you doing today?
Super. Just super.
Oh, thanks for asking. Not going to say that.
Thanks for asking.
You missed that opportunity right there, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, and we have another guest, a returning nerd. We have Kitch again. Hello.
Hey, how are you? It's been an age.
You're breaking the fourth wall here, Kitch. You're breaking the fourth wall. Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, we have two lovely people over from the other island next to mine. So apologies, everyone who can't understand them. I'm starting off insulting you guys. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
A Dublin accent's not too bad. It's the old Ulster accents that's the killer.
I pronounce my words.
Sorry, I'm getting you confused with Cork.
Cork, Jesus. I was going to start going on about just making fun of your accent, but I don't think anybody outside of Ireland would get the jokes I was going to make. So I'm not going to bother with that.
It saved me a lot of time on Facebook afterwards, because I have loads of friends from Cork, so they'll be killing me after this.
Anyway, so this week's episode was actually Kitch's suggestion. So, Kitch, do you want to lead us off?
Sure. Hi. Well, I've been trying to wrap my head how the best way to introduce this topic. So, I've thought of this. The Earth's population is expected to rise by, as far as I hear, about 5 billion people by 2050. According to the UN. Now, these people are going to need food, shelter, clothing, and heat, and of course internet. That's apparently becoming a necessity nowadays. But in order to make sure that those resources are available, we need obviously energy. These are energy intensive processes. So the energy what we have right now is from the combustion of fossil fuels, which is no longer feasible as due to climate change. The releasing of greenhouse gases is causing our planet to warm up and lead to less predictable weather, more extreme weather. And before those people write, climate change does happen. Just accept it.
I don't know. I'm reading a book at the moment by a chap called what's he called? Patrick Moore, and he tells me it's not happening.
This is Patrick Moore of Greenpeace?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah. He's a bell end.
Well, he's not too bad. I disagree with him with regards to climate change, but a lot of the other stuff I agree with him with, and some of it I think is a bit right. Oh, and just to correct you, Kitch, sorry to be this guy. It's predicted to be about 9.6 billion people by 2050. So it's another 2.4 billion.
Okay, I knew that figure wasn't totally correct. But yeah, sorry, I done goof.
You should apologise, you bastard. And we only say things that are 100% factually correct on this podcast. We're never wrong. Yeah, cool. So before we interrupted you, you were talking about climate change and how maybe burning fossil fuels with the population that just seems to be going up and up at the moment isn't really too viable. So yeah, do you want to introduce us more into, I guess, biofuels then?
Well, biofuels is one possible alternative energy source, and now
sorry to be a dick again, but isn't coal technically a biofuel? And oil?
Technically, I suppose.
I know what you're talking about, though. Sorry, I'm being a dick today. Sorry.
No worries. Right, sure.
That's actually an interesting point to make it like that. What is the thing that separates, like, saying coal from corn, from ethanol made from corn? Like, why do we say one is bio and one is not?
Well, I think technically they both are, but it means what you essentially, in a colloquial sense, it means something different.
I suppose it's more biofuels are more coal is more the biomass after years of actually sorry I don't actually know the process of coal formation. I'm not really
enormous amount of pressure, sure.
Yeah, under pressure and temperature. It's more of an abiotic transformation of biomass. Well,
here. All we need to know: a dinosaur dies, some rocks fall on top of him, oil, sort of.
Yeah,
done.
Well, biofuel is the microbes basically taking a substrate such as a fermentable sugar like glucose, processing it to a fuel such as methane or hydrogen or ethanol or butanol.
It's a real shame that James isn't here today, because I'm pretty sure he used to work at one of these factories, didn't he?
I don't know who you're asking here. I think you
sorry. I thought you knew, Buck. Yeah, I thought that he worked at some kind of biofuel kind of place. I might have got that wrong. But anyway, yeah, so you're about, like, getting bugs and what have you to produce fuel for us. And also, are you also talking about ethanol from, like, crops and stuff like that?
Yes. So that will be biofuels. Now, at the moment, you have first generation biofuels. This comes from the fermentation of fermentable sugars such as glucose to these fuels such as ethanol and biobutanol. Second generation is it's the same process, only it's not glucose. It's more of the lignos. Oh, sorry, I can't pronounce it. It's one of those things I only see the word written. But it's from it's basically it's a non-fermentable parts of the plant, the structural parts, the lignin, stuff like that we don't like. We don't eat it. The bacteria have a hard time degrading it. Now I know there's work on enzymes trying to engineer them to be able to break down these materials. I'm not too sure at where exactly that research is at right now. More what I'm interested in actually is microbial electrolysis cells.
Oh, wait, what are those?
Okay, so do you know the conventional water electrolysis process, where water is split between in an electrochemical cell?
Yeah. Kind of, but for our audience, do you want to explain it?
And me.
Okay, so an
So what is water? Explain this to me.
Well, at the moment of the Big Bang, in a normal electrochemical cell, you have at one end you'll have a cathode. So this is just an electrode poised at a negative potential. And then you'll have the anode, which is just another electrode poised at a cathode negative potential, anode positive potential. And then this, if you poise this electrochemical cell at a high enough potential, you're able to split the water molecules from hydrogen and oxygen. Now, I'm not an electrochemist, so I'm not too sure at the exact bits and bobs of it, but just for simplicity, you're able to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And this is usually done in school classes to show this process. You have a little collection tube at one end, a little collection tube at the other end, and you're able to show the presence of oxygen by relighting a glowing splint. That process can be used to produce hydrogen. It's though it's not very efficient. because you have to supply a lot of energy to split the water molecule, because the water molecule is so stable. However, in a microbial electrolysis cell, pretty much the at one end you have a microbial biofilm. So it's just my biofilm is just I could go into really a lot more detail than this, but it's basically just bacteria growing on a surface in a film made up of polysaccharides. And basically the bacteria degrade organic compounds, so fats, sugar, stuff like that, into bicarbonate, electrons, free energy electrons, and hydrogen ions. These hydrogen ions then diffuse across from the anode to the cathode, where they recombine with the electrons that are liberated from the microbial metabolism and form hydrogen. This process is a lot more energy efficient, as the energy is only required to reduce the protons. You don't have to split up the water molecules, because the hydrogen is formed from the organic compounds.
Wait, so do they do this in nature then? Like, what's the purpose of it?
The purpose of for these guys, they produce, well, in nature, you have these bacteria known as electroactive bacteria, or electrochemically active bacteria. These basically will form on mineral precipitates, such as magnesium and iron, or even actually around paper gold deposits. And they basically grow in they grow in the absence of oxygen, or they can grow in the absence of oxygen, they can grow in the absence of oxygen. They're known as anaerobic. So during the course of their metabolism, they form basically the whole process of metabolism is to, I know I'm really simplifying it here, and the people who are more knowledgeable of this are going to kill me, but they break down the substrate to free high energy electrons. These electrons then are used to drive the cell, but they are then used to form ATP. And then once the electrons donate their energy, they have to be got rid of, because otherwise they block the whole process. So in order to do that, they reduce these minerals that they bind to, these positively charged minerals. And basically that's what they're doing in nature, but we take that process, this electron donating ability of this microorganism, and basically put it onto a charged anode. I hope that makes sense, because I was kind of going through my own head there more than anything else. But yeah, it's just this electroactivity. It's just a way for them to basically respire, like we respire. We use oxygen as an electron acceptor at the end of our process. These bacteria use minerals such as gold, palladium. They can actually use, that surprised me, they can actually use uranium and plutonium as electron acceptors, which are, usually very quite nasty metals. And so we just take that ability and use it here.
So has it been shown to work though? Or is this all like lab, like very small scale R&D at the moment?
At the moment, there have been pilot plants done. In the lab bench, they've been trying different types of reactor configurations and electrode materials. But on the pilot plant, the amount of hydrogen formed it's not commercially viable yet.
Mm-hmm.
And
how long before, like what is this costing, say, a litre at the moment compared to whatever, a pound £1.10 or £1.20 for a litre of diesel at the moment. Like, what is it? What is it working out at the moment for this?
Well,
In,
at the
like, real
moment,
world terms?
I haven't seen any cost analysis done for this technology. But
Dude, Buck, you are jumping the gun there a bit, aren't you?
That's fair enough.
When are these things going to be in my home?
No, but again, but it's interesting to know, like, how far, like, you know, if it's at the moment it's costing £100 a litre.
Yeah,
You know, it could give you a rough idea of is this realistically going to be something we're going to see in 50 years? Is it going to be something we're going to see before 2050?
I always worry about that kind of level, not level of, that kind of reasoning, because it always reminds me of Top Gear. Like, I really hate Top Gear. What do you guys think?
I haven't watched.
You can read, so
yeah.
Harsh. Yeah, so
harsh but fair.
What they do that really knocks me off is they always have like really, really like alpha or beta technology, and they put it on the show and they slag it off. And it was like, oh, when you know, when's it going to be doing this? When's it going to be doing that? Oh, it's not doing it already. Fuck it. So I just always reminds me of that. I'm not having to go. Just
sounds like you have a Top Gear. Internet tough man. That's what you are. Internet tough man.
Ow.
So this is very, very early on in this, you know, in the process.
But from what I can tell, it's this particular technology is actually going to be used more so to, as kind of it's going to be used to not only produce hydrogen but to treat wastes, food wastes, to lower the amount of organics in the liquid waste. So it's not just it's not just focused on producing energy, although that is certainly something they want to increase, because at the moment most studies use a mixed microbial community, so there'll be a lot of different microbes there, and since there's a lot of different microbes there, you have a lot of competing pathways that can use hydrogen. So you have these anode respiring bacteria can actually use hydrogen as an electron source, such as we use glucose. If I was to bring up, kind of put an analogy on it. And there's also,
I was going to say, sorry to interrupt you. You just said about organic stuff. I take it you're talking about like DOC, dissolved organic carbon.
Yes.
How would producing hydrogen solve that problem?
Because the bacteria break down the organics to produce hydrogen ions. They produce, I think it's CO2 or bicarbonate. And and these electrons that then they transfer to the electrode, which then when you poise the electrode, at a particular potential, it will reduce the hydrogen ions at the cathode, and usually you would include a membrane in the middle, so just to ensure that trying to remember now, you include an anode, a cation or anion exchange membrane, and that just ensures that the hydrogen ions, when they they don't react with anything else in the medium.
Is this stuff though? Is it going to be any better than bugs that can produce long-chain hydrocarbons for fuel? Because that's another one that I know people are going towards. Like, we can get, this bug will make such and such that you can literally put in your car.
Biodiesel, yeah. At the moment, I don't know. That's basically about the most honest answer I could give. I don't know if they're going to be better, but I definitely think that it's not going to be one solution. It's going to be a mixture of these different technologies. Wherever you can get the energy, it's probably the most. This would definitely be good for degradation of waste. I've seen mixed studies on COD removal, but I think that's more to do with the community used
I think it's interesting that a lot of these waste companies are looking at kind of biology as a way to get rid of nasty stuff that they want. I mean, I worked on a project a while ago where they were using bugs to get rid of long hydrocarbons. Essentially, these bugs were just churning it up, and every few days you had to put in a few litres of this stuff, give it a bit of a churn, and they were just watching the dissolved organic carbon just go down and down and down. So I think it's really cool and interesting. So anyway, I'm going off topic. Sorry about this. Buck, you've been really quiet. So what do you have to say?
Because it's all been fairly technical for me here now. I've started researching about biofuels about 36 hours ago, so I'm not totally up to speed as yet. But from the bits and pieces I did understand, it seems similar to this idea of using algae as a biofuel, in the sense that it's also going to be used to suck up carbon, obviously, also used to clean as waste management, clean water. So there's a project at the moment off the coast of the idea is off the coast of San Francisco, and it's going to be used because San Francisco's putting its waste straight into the ocean. So this would be a way of treating as well. But they were saying there was still a time off from this being a viable source as well. Is it anything like that?
Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about there. Algae. I know for usually algae they use. Sorry, just trying to think. I know for hydrogen. Algae is used as in direct biophotolysis. So this is where they, without going into the exact mechanics, they use the energy of the sun to split the water molecule into hydrogen and oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem with this, just in terms of hydrogen, so just hydrogen first, because that's actually more of what I would know more about, is that you need a large bioreactor surface area, so that increases the cost of the process, because you just need to have the entire reactor illuminated, so you kind of need a large shallow pond or something.
The two potentials I seen, one was internal, and one would have required an outside power source to light up everything, and the second was what you're describing there, was just large ponds, and one of the suggested one is in the water beside San Francisco, and the algae would be grown inside large plastic pockets, and
so it wouldn't be released to the wild then?
No, it wouldn't be, but they would be fresh. They would be freshwater algae. They would be kept inside these large plastic bags, essentially, filled up with wastewater, and the algae would feed on the wastewater, and if anything was to get damaged, they were to leak out, the algae would die because they're fresh water, and the waste could be cleaned up from there. So it seemed like it's of all the potential biofuels, it seems my favourite so far. But
don't you think it's funny that like something like that can get the green light, and something like I said about my dirty mud getting treated by bacteria that they found, I think it was in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's totally fine, no one bats an eyelid. As soon as you give an organism a gene from somewhere else, people fucking lose their mind. If they knew the litres and litres of stuff that I poured just in the open, well, it wasn't the open, it was kind of contained, but relatively not really. It was just in a dumper truck thing. I think people just lose their minds. I always thought that was really interesting. So I think like algae, especially, which is known for, when people think of algae, they'll think of like blooms and stuff like that. So I'm surprised that one's. It
hasn't as yet got total green light. They're still working on it at the moment, but apparently because of there's lots and lots of red tape. But that's the principle. So it hasn't got totally red lit yet. But it seemed, because I was looking at it was like even there just at the other one of the potential was corn to ethanol. Where they were saying, like, I thought that would have been a fairly reason. Do you know much about that, or?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, it's like all of them. Well, it depends if you use it. It depends if you're exclusively using it for waste management and stuff like that. I can totally see that. But that's like its primary use, and you're just getting the secondary something off it fuel.
Mhm.
But ethanol from plants and stuff, it's its primary use, and the economics of it sometimes are a bit iffy, as well as how much CO2 it's actually saving from going into the environment.
From one of the areas I found, it said you need to double the CO2 if you take from any CO2 captured from using corn to ethanol. It actually doubles the CO2 released into the atmosphere. So corn is not the.
Wait, how does it do that?
From you have to pick it. You have to there's a huge amount of processing it and things like that there. So corn isn't. But even there, the IMF done a report on biofuels 2008. 1.5% of global fuel use was biofuel. Like, what do you see as? When do we see like the first airplanes being used on biofuel? Because we are depending on where you're looking, nearly every country, if not every country, has reached peak oil.
As I would say, when we get the costs down or the efficiency of producing the fuel high, because if you look where ethanol is already, bioethanol, perfect example, Brazil. Yes. They use bioethanol, but the price, as far as I know, is there's either not much difference or it's more expensive to use the bioethanol.
From what I understand with Brazil, they use 50% of the country's use on ethanol. They have a huge source of huge amount of land, so lots of sugarcane, which is what their ethanol is run on. But I think again, it's not sort of the success story they're letting on, because it's largely government subsidised, and it's not it's ticking over at the moment. And when oil does sort of take off again in price, I said it probably will be worth it. But apparently they have the most efficient ethanol producing plants in the world, just from location and things like that. There, everything seems to have been done right in Brazil, from what I understand.
To me, it depends on what angle you're coming from. You know me, I love alpha beta technology. I'm a real sucker for that kind of stuff. But if you're marketing this stuff as it's going to help protect the environment, yada yada yada, but it ends up like being the same, if not worse, or even slightly better, then you can't really sell it as that.
Yeah.
If you want it as another way of getting fuel that's economical, that's totally fine, as long as your sums add up. And at the moment, it is a bit squiffy, but it's the same with all these kind of newish, relatively new technologies. I mean, hopefully, in the next few decades, one of them is just going to take off. We'll either find a great solar panels or a great way of having wind or tidal energy, or new ways of extracting such and such from the environment. I don't know. But
well, obviously, the day will be saved by solar fucking roadways.
They are. I wanted it to be true.
You just they really sold it to me. Like, I mean, I watched that video and I feel like a total dick for it selling to me. But when their sales pitch included the idea that the world will someday look like Tron, was one of the big sales.
That's what got me.
Pitches on. I know. That's what got me. It was like, looks so cool.
It was like,
and then Thunderfoot with his science.
No, it wasn't. No, it was when. It was
ruining everything.
It wasn't that bit. I kind of like, I was just like, oh my god, I want Tron, I want it so bad, so I ignored a bit of it. But then it was starting talking about heating them, and I was like, well, no. And then I thought, well, glass, no, no. But there's loads of other things. I mean, we talk about this one a lot. People making roofing tiles out of like solar cells. That could be something in the future. Or like just in general, put it into buildings in general. I mean, these solar cells are not perfect at the moment. They take a lot of interesting elements to make, and they need to be shipped from various places, and they take years and years to get their money back economically and all this stuff. But I love my beta technology. Yeah. I love it. So
I definitely do see a place for solar power in energy, especially where I wouldn't think that Ireland or the UK would probably be the best place for for solar. I think that may be more wind power or
Speak for yourself. Up in the north here, Jesus, roasting the sun all the time.
Buck, I've seen you in real life. You are as white as anything.
I'm so tanned. I'm so swarthy. No, we're not going to get many solar panels up about this part of the country.
No, going back to biofuels, I think we're going a bit off topic again. It doesn't just have to be plants that make these things. Well, no, I mean like big plants, like with leaves and shit. Surely we can engineer a bug to produce this kind of stuff.
Yeah, sure. I know that is one of the promises of synthetic biology is to come up with a bacteria that can produce biofuel better.
Synthetic biology,
yes.
I've heard that's the devil's work.
If you were to believe some organizations that are green.
Shuckerman! Him as well.
Yeah, but I know there's work going on in the Imperial College actually looking at producing engineering geobacillus to produce I can't remember which biofuel because it didn't actually say which biofuel, but they're actually looking at engineering a geobacillus organism to produce biofuels. And at the moment, as far as I know, the limiting factor in the yield that you can get from a bacteria is more there's something like ethanol. Ethanol is also antimicrobial.
Yeah,
so you nearly
that's
need to overcome that resistance. Actually, I know in Singapore, one of my friends is actually looking at using compounds to stabilize the membrane because biodiesel using lipids can actually destabilize the bacterial membrane. So if you insert these compounds, I know DSSN, I can't remember the actual name of it, and I even seeing it, I was like, I can't pronounce that for the life of me. So it's probably even better that I don't remember it. These molecules basically stabilize the membrane and basically protect the bacteria and allows greater generation of the biobutanol. And I know actually Nottingham does work with biofuels as well. They look at bioethanol and biobutanol. Actually, they prefer biobutanol because of the greater energy content. Compared to ethanol because of the more carbon hydrogen bonds. Am I correct in saying there?
Yeah. Do you not know your basic organic chemistry there? Terrible. I love this. Like, chemistry never gets mentioned on this podcast or even on my own channel. So the moment it does, I just jump on it. I love this stuff. I'm so sad.
Organic chemistry.
Say no then.
No, I totally agree with that. Yeah.
Buck.
Carry on, man.
I'm just going to cry about something unrelated.
But
anyway, sorry, what were you saying?
Actually, another topic I want to bring up is actually microbial fuel cells. Now, remember the microbial electrolysis cell I brought from the start to set up there. Mm-hmm. We have an anode, the cathode, anion exchange membrane, and this one, microbial fuel cell is obviously it's different. Instead of you injecting energy in to produce hydrogen, or you can actually use microbial electrolysis cells, this kind of technology to produce other things like ethanol, methane, hydrogen peroxide. You can actually get an electrochemically active anode, electrochemically active biofilm grown on the anode of the microbial fuel cell, and basically they will break down the organic contaminants in your wastewater, and at the same time they will transfer those electrons to the cathode chamber, which is this particular technology. The cathode chamber is aerobic, so it's open to oxygen, and the oxygen comes along, combines with the electrons at the cathode, and forms water. This produces an electrical current in this process, and you can use that then to do work. Light up a light bulb, say, or or whatever you want to connect that battery to. It's great.
But here's the thing, though. Like that's really sounds interesting. But is it really practical ever in the future when we already have technology at the moment that far surpasses it?
It's.
I mean, it's good having it like as a way of getting rid of waste.
Oh yeah, it's at the moment, and I completely agree. It's not going to It's not one of these fancy pants revolutionary ideas. But at the moment, actually, sorry, I have it in my notes that it is being marketed by a company called I can't pronounce it. MC. It's actually here. It's just gone past me in my notes. They actually produce these microbial fuel cells to basically break down the organic contaminants, and then that current is then used to help with the wastewater treatment process, because a lot of the cost associated with water treatment is just energy, heating up the system, because this takes place at around 50 degrees, usually for biological treatment of waste. So this is a way you can get back some of that energy that you put in, because it's quite expensive.
It is water treatment, when you talk about this, is this just an added benefit, or is this required to help bring down the cost to make this a real alternative?
Sorry, not sure what you mean. Do you mean that it's that it's just to bring down the cost of the wastewater treatment, or?
Or is just to bring down of the end product biofuel?
In this particular case, it's just to bring down the cost of treating the wastewater. It's the fuel itself is just
benefit.
The current that's produced. It's a biofuel per se, like hydrogen is produced. It's just that this process produces energy, electrical energy, that can then be used to heat up the reactor. This has actually been commercial, so I just kind of wanted to bring that up because actually, I don't know, kind of sad like that. I kind of find that interesting. Where this is a technology that's gone from this is a cute idea, but we actually bring it in now into the real world. But there's microbial fuel cells, I don't think are probably going to be the it's not going to be the main thing. But there actually are some good things coming out of microbial fuel cell research. Actually, does any of you actually seen the PhD comics, their YouTube channel?
Nope.
No.
I definitely recommend watching some of their videos, because they come up with these short videos that are quite cool on different scientific topics. One of them, they actually went to a research lab in Saudi Arabia where they were using microbial fuel cells to produce power that is then used to remove salt from seawater to produce drinkable water.
Oh.
So that's kind of... So they're using wastewater power to clean up water for... clean up seawater, make it drinkable. So that's actually another aspect of this technology. So although it's a kind of good example of showing that, this isn't going to generate a lot of power, but you can incorporate this into the designs of other technologies, and it's not going to be the solution in and of itself, if that makes sense.
I think one of the best things biofuel has going for it is essentially the infrastructure is already there for it, which is something we haven't really talked about. So, like a major problem with having electric cars at the moment is that we're just not capable of having them on the roads. We don't have stations that you can charge up at everywhere. I mean, there's the odd one, but it's not the same as having a car like mine where I can just go to a petrol station.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas with biofuels, it's just a quick fix to get it to pump out whatever you want.
But even there's airplanes. We're not going to be seeing a battery airplane anytime soon. it's just something which is so totally essential to our way of
Yeah,
life.
that's very important. If you're ever going to bring in a new energy, a new fuel, you really do need to have at least the infrastructure there, or at least be able to introduce the infrastructure easily, because that's kind of that's going to be a big roadblock. There's no point in having this fancy pants new technology if no one's going to be able to use it, or it's just going to be too expensive. For example, like hydrogen is a great fuel, but at the moment it's really not safe for to use, because it's an invisible gas. And there's no odorants to add in, so like natural gas, there are additives added in to give it a smell. There's nothing really to do that for hydrogen. But for hydrogen, I do know that it's actually going to be used to mix in with natural gas. So it lowers the carbon footprint of natural gas.
But how can they do that? Where are they going to get the hydrogen from?
Well, there's usually at the moment it's steam reforming of coal or other fossil fuels. That's the main source of hydrogen produced at the moment. You can produce hydrogen using photolysis, which basically just a catalyst like titanium dioxide, and that can produce hydrogen from water using light as an energy source. But the problem is there that it's unreliable, as far as I know. Probably somebody will be able to correct me in the comments, because I'm not into the photolysis, but as far as I know through my reading for this, I'm actually doing a literature review on microbial electrolysis cells. So this is kind of why I picked this topic. But the electrolysis is this catalyst is prone to poisoning from hydrogen peroxide, so it stops working. And hydrogen peroxide is actually produced as a byproduct.
Right.
So it's not exactly, so it's self-poisoning. And then you have the biological production methods that are good. There's some promising ones here, but they've come with their own challenges, as I said before. For example, you can use dark fermentation, which does basically the mixed microbial community, break down organics and produce hydrogen. But there are, the hydrogen actually...
Isn't time going to be a major problem there, though?
Yeah, I'm not too sure on the actual rate, the kinetic rate, but for dark fermentation, I've seen it's around YouTube, but I've seen in the literature it's around 30 degrees. But the main problem actually for dark fermentation is that there are organisms in there called metanogens. Now these basically there's some caveats here, but basically they take the hydrogen and carbon dioxide and combine it to form methane. Now methane, yeah, it's good. It's a good biofuel, but it's not as good as hydrogen. Its energy content is not as good as hydrogen. Further, the hydrogen itself, when the level starts to rise, it actually can actually start to inhibit hydrogen production, and can actually cause the hydrogen reoxidation. So basically the hydrogen is basically broken down again. And then there's as I said before, there's the light dependent processes, but they are dependent on a large bioreactor. You need a expensive large bioreactor, and also oxygen is a combination. Oxygen is a byproduct of this process, and so you're producing hydrogen and oxygen at the same time, and that's a safety concerns, and it's also it doesn't have a highest synthesis rate as the dark fermentation, and then you have the microbial electrolysis, which then again has its own problems. But these are problems that are for us to as scientists to tackle. So
one thing that I think we've missed that I think has real potential from biofuels is not to make a new type of fuel that's out there. Like, I guess ethanol would technically be like a new type of fuel. It's one that we're not really used to, and the real world isn't really run on. But I think Buck slightly tweaked it before when he said, when are we going to see airplanes run on electricity and what have you? Well, what about the other way around? Like having airplanes running on what they're running on now, but having it made from organisms, having like Jet 1A fuel made from them. That sounds fantastic. I mean, normally I hate energy conversion usually. So when people say like, oh, hydrogen-powered cars, and you're like, oh, where are you going to get the hydrogen from? Oh, it's electrolysis, yada yada. Oh, where's that energy from? Oh, it's from coal. Yeah. You're like, well, that's just energy transfer, and you're losing along the way. It's not clean. Mm-hmm. But I can totally see, especially from a financial point of view, needing this kind of fuel. So do you think there'll be things like that made in the future, where we have like organisms making jet fuel and fuel like proper stuff that's in use now?
At the moment, I'm not sure. I don't see any reason why we couldn't have these organisms to be producing these fuels, possibly through either synthetic biology or some other technology that may come along. It's kind of, you're kind of predicting the future there, which is something I'm not anywhere near qualified to do. But I don't see why not. But there's still a lot of challenges there that are that are limiting these technologies. But
like what?
There's the.
Is a major issue is going to be oil. Coal is, we have a lot of coal left, and it's going to be much easier to just turn that into some sort of fuel rather than all the science, which is we're only 20 years away from it. Always. It's there's a lot of big ideas, but then just this coal is just so easy to get at, and it's going to be.
Yeah.
So would you count that as much of a problem for you, and for the sciences, for these sciences?
I'll say that's an immediate that's an immediate thing, is that we have relatively abundant sources of fossil fuels. So when you're introducing a new technology, you always have to consider, well, why is somebody going to bother investing in this? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of companies are invested only for the short-term profit, relatively. I'm more academic, so I really wouldn't know too much about the industrial side of things. But if you look at the biofuels, it's not an efficient process at the moment because of the toxicity of the biofuel to the organism. This the size of the reactors that are needed. Sometimes the high temperature of the process. I think dark fermentation actually, I have down here in my notes, dark fermentation actually requires around 55 degrees to work efficiently. You could have explosive mixtures such as in the light dependent direct biophotolysis that produces a oxygen hydrogen mixture. Trying to think what else. For second generation biofuels, it's very hard to break down the plant's structural materials, and for even first generation, I've actually read that for first generation, should you be using fuel, you're using food that could be used to feed people.
That seems to be a massive issue, because when America made this massive push on changing corn to ethanol, as I mentioned, the price of corn in Mexico went up 400%. So this is a poor country which had this very cheap cheap crop, and then just because something America's decided to do, and then people were suddenly going hungry. Like, what do you see is how going forward do we avoid that?
I'd say to avoid that, we should more look at the second generation biofuels, such as the ones that are used,
or the tougher one,
the plant waste, the plants, the stuff, the plants that we are just throwing away. And at the same time, it's very hard to degrade that. So I know probably the best way to do that is look at the boogeyman, the synthetic biology strategies to engineer these pathways to break down these hard to digest materials to produce the fuels needed. And by no means would I say also that biofuels is going to be the energy strategy that's going to save the world. It's or anything like that. It's one small part in a smart strategy to produce energy. It's just wherever you can get the energy, that's where you should wherever you can get the energy efficiently. So that will definitely biofuels, because that's you can use that to degrade. You can get that from the degradation of waste. Definitely solar, wind, and even I would probably say nuclear as well. I would definitely include nuclear.
From my from the very, very limited understanding I have in it, but I'd have to imagine like a nuclear is going to be the main one. It is the most reliable. It seems to be the technology that's moving fastest. But we are going to need the liquid. The liquid fuels are going to be required for our way of life as well. So I'd imagine that's going to.
But I'm just saying we should definitely consider all the alternatives. If that makes sense. Sorry, just.
No. I've read about, I'd say 12 articles on it. I've watched several YouTube videos and stuff like that there, and everyone's saying this is not the silver bullet. Yeah. This is just going to be one part of a bigger.
There's no such thing as a silver bullet really for anything. For any real issue in science.
Oil was pretty fucking good when it was.
It was, but unfortunately, that's
other than the global warming and the oil
only for the
and the wars in the Middle East. If it wasn't for those things, it'd be great.
If it wasn't for all that environmental and geopolitical stuff, oil's fantastic. Oh God! Anyway, I can see that being quote mined by.
So that's it. So we'll just stick with oil, forget the rest.
Sorry, I interrupted there.
That's all right. So anyway, on that note, I think we should call this one to an end, chaps. What do you think?
Yeah, sure.
Unless you've got anything else to say.
Solar fucking roadways all the way. Yeah. Bring it back there.
Oh, well, cool. Well, anyway, hopefully you guys out there in Internet Land enjoyed this podcast. And if you did, remember to give us a like and give us a rating on iTunes. I know I've been saying this quite a lot recently at the end of the podcast, but it really does help us out. And, it helps us keeps us going as well, because it's nice to read them and to know what you guys think. And, let us know what you think in the description as well, because I promise you we read them all. So anyway, it's the end of this episode. So Kitch, before you leave one more time, where can people find you?
Well, I'm mainly on the Throwing with Logic podcast, so you can just go into throwingwithlogic.com. It'll give you links to the most recent podcasts and past podcasts. Also, I have a blog on Throwing with Logic. That's the main way to get into my content. It's called the Bio Inspiration blog. So if you just look under Throwing with Logic blogs, you find Bio Inspiration. That's me there. And also you can follow me on Twitter on Bio Inspiration or Michael Kitching. I can't remember which way. Bio Inspiration is my Twitter handle.
Cool. Right, then. Follow those guys if you want to. And Buck, no one wants to know where to find you, so I'm not going to tell them.
No, just say my name 3 times and all. Or get me on Twitter. One of those.
I don't actually slag you off too much in case the Book of Maniacs come after me.
The millions and millions.
You can get your own cult now. It's getting a bit crazy.
Some of the comments are a little bit creepy, yeah, but I like it. I like it a lot.
Cool. So anyway, thanks for watching, people of the internet. So it's goodbye from me. Goodbye. It's goodbye from the lovely Buck.
Good luck, gentlemen.
And it's goodbye from the lovely Kitch.
Goodbye, everybody. Hi. Well, I've been trying to wrap my head how the best way to introduce this topic. So I've thought of this. The Earth's population is expected to rise by, as far as I hear, about 5 billion people by 2050, according to the UN. Now, these people are going to need food, shelter, clothing, and heat, and of course internet. That's apparently becoming a necessity nowadays. But in order to make sure that those resources are available, we need obviously energy. These are energy intensive processes. So the energy what we have right now is from the combustion of fossil fuels, which is no longer feasible, as due to climate change. The releasing of greenhouse gases is causing our planet to warm up and lead to less predictable weather, more extreme weather. And before those people write, climate change does happen, just accept it.
I don't know. I'm reading a book at the moment by a chap called what's he called? Patrick Moore, and he tells me it's not happening.
This is Patrick Moore of Greenpeace?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Yeah, he's a bell end.
Well, he's not too bad. I disagree with him with regards to climate change, but a lot of the other stuff I agree with him with, and some of it I think is a bit right. Oh, and just to correct you, Kitch, sorry to be this guy. It's predicted to be about 9.6 billion people by 2050. So it's another 2.4 billion.
Okay, I knew that figure wasn't totally correct. But
and me.
Okay, so an electrical.
So what is water? Explain this to me.
Well, at the moment of the Big Bang, in a normal electrochemical cell, you have at one end you'll have a cathode. So this is just an electrode poised at a negative potential. And then you'll have the anode, which is just another electrode poised at a cathode negative potential, anode positive potential. And then this, if you poise this electrochemical cell at a high enough potential, you're able to split the water molecules from hydrogen and oxygen. Now, I'm not an electrochemist, so I'm not too sure at the exact bits and bobs of it, but just for simplicity, you're able to split water into hydrogen and oxygen. And this is usually done in school classes to show this process. You have a little collection tube at one end, a little collection tube at the other end, and you're able to show the presence of oxygen by relighting a long splint. That process can be used to produce hydrogen. It's though it's not very efficient. Because you have to supply a lot of energy to split the water molecule, because the water molecule is so stable. However, in a microbial electrolysis cell, pretty much the at one end you have a microbial biofilm. So it's just my biofilm is just. I could go into really a lot more detail than this, but it's basically just bacteria growing on a surface in a film made.
Work at one of these factories, didn't he?
I don't know who you're asking here. I think you
sorry. I thought you knew Buck. Yeah, I thought that he worked at some kind of biofuel kind of place. I might have got that wrong. But anyway, yeah, so you're about like getting bugs and what have you to produce fuel for us. And also, are you also talking about ethanol from like crops and stuff like that?
Yes. So that will be biofuels. Now, at the moment, you have first generation biofuels. This comes from the fermentation of fermentable sugars such as glucose to these fuels such as ethanol and biobutanol. Second generation is it's the same process, only it's not glucose. It's more of the lignos. Oh, sorry, I can't pronounce it. It's one of those things I only see the word written. But it's from it's basically it's a non-fermentable parts of the plant, the structural parts, the lignin, stuff like that we don't like. We don't eat it. The bacteria have a hard time degrading it. Now I know there's work on in enzymes trying to engineer them to be able to break down these materials. I'm not too sure at where exactly that research is at right now. More, what I'm interested in actually is microbial electrolysis cells.
Oh, wait, what are those?
Okay, so do you know the conventional water electrolysis process, where water is split between in an electrochemical cell?
Yeah. Kind of, but for our audience, do you want to explain it?
Yeah. Sorry. I done goof.
You should apologise, you bastard. We only say things that are 100% factually correct on this podcast. We're never wrong. Yeah, cool. So, before we interrupted you, you were talking about climate change and how maybe burning fossil fuels with the population that just seems to be going up and up at the moment isn't really too viable. So, yeah, do you want to introduce us more into, I guess, biofuels then?
Well, biofuels is one possible alternative energy source, and now
sorry to be a dick again, but isn't coal technically a biofuel and oil?
Technically, I suppose.
I know what you're talking about, though. Sorry, I'm being a dick today. Sorry.
No worries. Well, sure.
That's actually an interesting point to make it like that. What is the thing that separates, like, saying coal from corn, from ethanol made from corn? Like, why do we say one is bio and one is not?
Well, I think technically they both are, but it means what you essentially, in a colloquial sense, it means something different.
I suppose it's more biofuels are more. Coal is more the biomass after years of. Actually, sorry, I don't actually know the process of coal formation. I'm not really.
Enormous amount of pressure, sure.
Yeah, under pressure and temperature. It's more of an abiotic transformation of biomass. While
here, all we need to know: a dinosaur dies, some rocks fall on top of him, oil, sort of.
Yeah,
done.
Well, biofuel is the microbes basically taking a substrate such as a fermentable sugar like glucose, processing it to a fuel such as methane or hydrogen or ethanol or butanol.
It's a real shame that James isn't here today, because I'm pretty sure he used to. Don't you think it's funny that like something like that can get the green light, and something like I said about my dirty mud getting treated by bacteria that they found, I think it was in the Gulf of Mexico, and that's totally fine, no one bats an eyelid. As soon as you give an organism a gene from somewhere else, people fucking lose their mind. Why, hello there, people of the internet. It's me, Miles, and welcome to another, pretty awesome episode of League of Nerds, if I say so myself. I would like to say, as always, I'm joined by James, but James, again, isn't here as we're recording this episode. He's away in America somewhere. But we actually have Buck with us. Hello, Buck.
Yo! Hello, Miles.
How are you doing today?
Super. Just super.
Oh, Thanks for asking. Not going to say that. Fair enough, you missed that.
Thanks for asking.
You missed that opportunity right there, buddy. Yeah. Anyway, and we have another guest, a returning nerd. We have Kitch again. Hello.
Hey, how are you? It's been an age.
You're breaking the fourth wall here, Kitch. You're breaking the fourth wall. Yeah, it's been a while. So yeah, we have two lovely people over from the other island next to mine. So apologies, everyone who can't understand them. I'm starting off insulting you guys. I'm sorry. I don't mean to.
A Dublin accent's not too bad. It's the old Ulster accents that's the killer.
I pronounce my words.
Sorry, I'm getting you confused with Cork.
Cork, Jesus. I was going to start going on about just making fun of your accent, but I don't think anybody outside of Ireland would get the jokes I was going to make. So I'm not going to bother with that.
It saved me a lot of time on Facebook afterwards, because I have loads of friends from Cork, so they'll be killing me after this.
Anyway, so this week's episode was actually Kitch's suggestion. So, Kitch, do you want to lead us off?
Sure.